Looks like you're live.
There's Rob.
Andrew, we're recording in live. You can start the meeting.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Safety Committee meeting. We have the members of the committee, Councilman Weibel and Councilwoman Rogoff here with us. Also the Lieutenant and the Chief of Police and Rob Jameson and Rick Lombardo, who is from Flock Security. Did I say your name correct? You're muted. You're still muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
You got my last name right. We're Flock Safety, but close enough. You got
Flock
Lombardo.
Safety. That's what I said it right about 2 seconds ago. So and you're here to give us a presentation on the Flock Secure camera systems and kind of then us to have a little discussion on what our thoughts are on it. I don't know if I want to turn it over to Jason first, if you want to start, because this was really your idea. And so I'll turn it over to you and Chief Dasik, if you want to give us a little background on why, or what brought you to this kind of idea.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. Thank you. So let me just move up a little bit here. So we've heard about this technology. It's the ALPRs, which are the license plate readers, and how beneficial they are for certain types of crimes, locating people that are abducted, silver alerts, which have to do with senior citizens that are lost, that may be driving around, amber alerts, things of that nature. They also help reduce crime. So actually, I heard it through a bunch of other police departments that basically surround us. So like Gates Mills, Hunting Valley, Moreland Hills, Bainbridge, Solon, all these police departments are looking into this type of technology to sort of help them, again, solve crimes, find people, things of that nature. So Rick had been reaching out to us a couple of times. I give him a lot of credit. He's definitely persistent. And so we finally decided to hear what he had to say about stuff. And a lot of it makes sense as far as the safety and security aspect, doing what's best for the community. Not to mention, and I can't get too much into the investigation, but these cameras have helped out with some burglaries and things of that nature that have been happening in and around the village of Sugar Falls. Not to mention last year we had a ton of property crimes. I think having these cameras may have given us an additional investigative tool to help solve some of those. When I talk about property crimes, I'm talking about almost 10 cars stolen. Fortunately, we recovered them, but still we weren't able to necessarily identify the people that were responsible for these types of crimes. Anyway, so with all that, it's just a little bit of background. We reached out to Rick. He came in, he presented in front of me, and I asked if he would come in and spend some time and present in front of you so you guys have a better idea of what type of product that he's trying to sell. So, Chief, did you have anything you want to add with that?
No, I think we're, Jason and I talked about it, and obviously from a law enforcement standpoint, we see the benefits of it. But ultimately it's your guys' decision if this is something that you guys want us to use or not. So.
With that being said, I'll just turn it over to Rick.
Wonderful. First off, thanks everybody for the time here. Would somebody be able to allow me to share my screen? And while we're doing that, if you don't mind me asking, how many on the call here have a Ring doorbell, security camera, anything like that at their house?
I do.
One. Okay. So something that I learned, I didn't know this a year ago, that and both Lieutenant and Chief, if I'm ever speaking out of turn, feel free to interrupt me. That most of the time when you have these property crimes and things like that, and you get a picture on your Ring doorbell or things like that, if you don't know who that is, it's very hard for the police to utilize the information through a Ring or security footage. To give you some background on how we even came about, our CEO, he was the head of his HOA down in Atlanta. They had a couple of burglaries, cars were stolen. They thought they did what they were supposed to do. They had the Ring doorbell and he got with other surrounding neighbors and he pulled, here's 5 different angles of a black truck. They call the cops up and they pretty much, the police pretty much tell them, do you know who that is? He said, we don't know who that is. The police said, neither do we. And at this point, it's just a picture of a black truck. There's no, quote, actionable evidence for them to go off of. So he asked what he needed. The police department said, if you can get us a license plate number, that's actual evidence for us to go off of. Short of that, it's very hard to scour all of Atlanta or Cleveland in this example for every black truck that might have been, around. So we got a couple quotes for license plate readers for his community. The lowest quote came in about $200,000 for 7 of them. He just knew that was something that wasn't going to fly. He's a really sharp kid, 32. Graduate at the top of his class as an electrical engineer. So he bought a couple iPhones offline, got with a couple buddies from college, wrote up a program, put the iPhones in a waterproof box, and they caught the guy in 2 weeks. So he realized that this was a tool out there that would be really beneficial to communities. So for the first year, it was really just protecting, property crimes and HOAs. Since then, we've really expanded quite a bit. Give me a second here. So our whole goal is to really eliminate nonviolent crime. And we just think we can do a lot of that, through technology. As Lieutenant said, a lot of times there's just not a lot of evidence to go off of for property crimes, whether it's, stolen vehicles, breaking into cars, things of that nature. So we really think we could really help eliminate those, with cameras and with technology. So this is what the camera looks like. It's not very big. It's about the size of a football. And the big differentiators with us is that we're infrastructure free and solar powered. So we can really put a camera anywhere that we can get about, 5 to 6 hours of sunlight during the day. You're also not actually purchasing the camera. You're really purchasing the service. So if a camera ever goes down, breaks, things of that nature, it's on us to come out and swap that camera out. So you don't have to worry about cameras breaking and worrying about having to fix those internally. It's an all-in service. We cover the hardware, software, everything included. We also have vehicle fingerprint technology. I won't get too into the details, but most other license plate readers that are out there, to do any sort of searches, you have to have the license plate. Without the license plate, there's not a lot of searching that you're able to do. We kind of reverse engineered that because the goal is to really get the police department the license plate. That's really the information that they need. And most of the time, people don't have a license plate to provide, but they might have had a grainy Ring doorbell image or description of a vehicle. So now we can take those things and search the cameras to find those matching vehicles. So I'll show that in a moment as well. These are the different types of ways that we're able to hang the camera. The camera itself is relatively small, as you can see there. And this is the solar panel here. We can tie into electric. So if we're hanging it on existing street lights or existing traffic poles, it would only be the camera and the straps there. We wouldn't even have the solar panel. We could also hang it on existing utility poles. And if we are using, somewhere that's solar that we don't have any electric, we have a flock pole. It's a 14-foot pole. It goes 2 feet into the ground, and the camera hangs about 10 feet high. So we're a relatively new company. We just started, 4 years ago, but we've been growing like crazy. We're in over 1,000 cities at this point, have working with over 600 police departments currently, and haven't lost a single police department customer yet. On average, they actually increase the number of cameras by about 95% after their initial purchase, just due to all the success they always have. We could also show how we're a little more accurate than other LPRs, and we could show reductions in crime of up to 60%. These are some of the things that we catch that other LPRs don't. We can actually capture temporary plates. One of the issues that have been historically wrong with LPRs is that they use the infrared technology to bounce off a license plate. So if somebody has a temporary tag on it, and Lieutenant Chief, you might know people tend to have more issues with temporary tags than normal tags. Also, if there's no plate, So we'll actually capture a car that goes by without a license plate, and we can still do searches off that as well. We can also capture covered plates. We have state detection. One of the issues a lot is departments will get a hit on a stolen plate. It'll be a stolen plate out of Illinois, Kentucky, another surrounding state. So we used our machine learning to identify the make and model of every single license plate. So now if you say, they get a tip that says, somebody was driving with an out-of-state plate, suspiciously or recklessly, they can look at out-of-state plates, or if it's a Georgia plate, they can just look at Georgia plates, for example. And we can also cover 2 lanes with 1 camera. So it cuts down on the number of cameras that you might need at a 2-lane roadway. We do work at day and night footage here. And I won't dig too much, I won't go into too much of the details of the cameras and all that, but this is what police departments get quite often, is a grainy image of a white vehicle or whatever it might be. And that's kind of all the evidence they have to go off of. So this happened, I live in Mentor, so I pick on them often. So what we're able to do now, historically, departments didn't have much to go on. This is just a white Dodge Charger, and that's all they have. Where with us, we can actually go in and really help solve these types of crimes. So historically, this is what most license plate readers will do. They'll pick a time frame and you pick what cameras you want to search, and you have to look through, hundreds or potentially thousands or tens of thousands of images looking for a single white Dodge Charger. And you're not even sure if it passed that camera, where it could have came in at, things like that. So it's very time consuming and not very easy or user friendly for many of the detectives. Whereas with ours, we can come in and say, we know that's a car and it's white. So if all we know it's a white car, we can now narrow that down to just, here's the number of white cars, that were in the vicinity at the time. So it really narrows it down from, potentially thousands of vehicles to, just, 43. And let's say, that's a Dodge car. Now we were able to tell that's a Dodge, narrow it down again. And now you can see there's only 1 Dodge car that was in the vicinity at that time. And then they could play this image here so you can actually see the car drive through. So for example, we could see, there's a big dent on the back, or is there a sticker decal? Is there aftermarket rims or any sort of luggage rack, things like that. So it really gives the department a much more clear, accurate picture of this vehicle. They'll also get a 30-day history of that vehicle as well, showing every time that car hit any of our flock cameras. And like they said, we are in Gates Mills, Pepper Pike, Hunting Valley, Solon, Bainbridge. I'm presenting at South Russell's Council in 2 weeks. Cleveland Heights just committed to 30. Independence is moving forward with 31. So there'll be hundreds of cameras around here in the Cleveland area. And this will show, where that car has been in the last 30 days, what cameras does it hit on the most, what times a day does it hit, and more details like that. So it just really allows the police department a full 30-day image of that vehicle. So let's say there were 5 Dodge Chargers in this example. Maybe 4 of them are coming and going at a normal pace of a normal citizen that lives there. Maybe they're coming and going every day or every other day at normal times a day. Versus maybe, one of them is registered to somebody, maybe an hour away, and they've only been into your city 2 times in the last 30 days, and it happens to be between 1 and 5 in the morning. So it really just gives the police department a lot more tools to try to figure out who that car is tied to find who the suspect is. Any questions kind of on this piece at all?
I have a question on the solar panels. How do they handle the snow? Do they have heating elements? Is snow accumulation on them a problem?
No, so they are at an angle and they actually heat up. So the snow is not really the big issue. The issue we have in Cleveland is just a very long time in the winter without any sunlight at all. So we are making some adjustments to our solar panels and our batteries, which we can potentially get up to about 10 to 14 days without any recharge. But just to be upfront, if it was like the winter we had now, there would be times that the solar would be down. Cleveland.com ran an article, I'm not sure if you saw it, that showed we didn't have a sunny day from November 20th to January 6th. And we're the 5th cloudiest city in the whole country. Congratulations, right? So the snow's not a problem. The rain's not a problem. It's really just consistent cloud cover, not allowing the battery to charge. But we are able to hook these into electric. So if there is electric there, we can hook it up electric, and then you won't have any of those issues.
So I have a question that's kind of similar to Andrew's. I was just doing the math of 5 to 6 hours of sunlight for, I'm assuming 24 hours of then charged service.
Mhm.
But then, then you've got to start again 5, 6. You need those 5, 6 hours, eat into your 24. But it sounds like you guys are aware of that issue. What if they're stolen or damaged? Who's responsible for that? You already cover that?
No, so the first one we'll actually replace for you for free and just ask that you move it. To be honest, theft really is not a major issue of ours. The camera hangs about 10 feet high, so they have to put in a lot of work to get it down. It's nothing that is kind of a crime of opportunity that somebody's walking by and just, hits it with something or easily taken down. It very rarely happens. So we'll actually cover the first one and ask that we move it. And then you would be responsible to purchase the second one if another one's stolen.
So is that the first, like, let's say we purchased 20 of them. Is that the first camera that's stolen, or is it the first one of those 20?
It's the first camera that's stolen.
So we're on our own after that. We get one mulligan.
Correct. No,
Okay.
You don't have to pay 20. It's not the full amount. It's really just our cost of the camera. So it's somewhere between $300 and $500. So we don't charge the full, $2,500 per camera per year. It's just our cost to manufacture the camera.
On the additional ones, if there are any that are damaged.
Correct.
Thank you.
More thinking that somebody will hit one with a car and knock out one of those poles.
Yeah, if that's the case, to be honest, the camera would probably be all right. We would just fix that camera and put up a new one.
Are the cameras GPS located if they do get stolen?
They are not, but we did actually, a funny story, we did send a shell out to somebody stole a camera in California. So we sent another one out with a shell with a tracker in it. And then the guy came and stole that 2 days later, and they were able to get him on felony theft at his house.
Cool.
There's various other features in here as well. So you can actually have a custom hot list. So for example, let's say that the burglary that happened, up in Gates Mills and Moreland Hills, let's say they knew who that car was. They have the license plate, and they're just trying to locate it. They could actually now add that in as a hot list and share it across all the other surrounding jurisdictions that have our cameras. So if we know that, it's my license plate, you add in the license plate. Now, even though that car is not stolen, it's not stolen, they're not a wanted felon, anything like that, you're still able to add in your own cars that you can be alerted to when they come back. So I drive a silver Honda Accord. I'm embarrassed I don't even know my own license plate number. But if you could, let's say I've been causing, multiple issues to your city, whether it's theft or whatever it might be. Now, anytime that my car enters, the police department will be alerted in 7 to 15 seconds. Not that they're going to pull me over or do anything, but at least they're aware that I'm coming back into the city and to kind of keep eyes on me. So the NCIC alerts, you get alerted, as Lieutenant said, to stolen vehicles, wanted felons, gang members, terrorists, silver alert, amber alerts, various other things. But if you're not on that list, we want to give you an additional way to track vehicles that might be problems coming and going. So now when that suspect vehicle that Hunting Valley was able to capture, now they can share that same vehicle with Solon and Independence and Willoughby and Mentor and all these other cities. So if that car ever comes back, the department will be alerted and can pull them over.
Seems like the readability of the license plates, at least from the images that I saw here, vary in your ability to read them, I guess. How accurate are they? Have you done some study? You'd hate to have somebody pulled over or whatever that's totally innocent and hasn't been flagged or whatever. What's the accuracy?
So the license plate, we're over 99% accurate on the license plate. When it comes to the make, build, and color, we're about 95 to 96% during the day. That does drop to about 91 to 92% at night for make, build, and color. Now, when it gets to the hot hit alerts, because like you said, nobody wants anybody pulled over. They'll actually, this is what'll show up in the vehicle. So they'll get, let's say this is a missing person. They went by a camera. This goes straight into the MDT or dispatch. Really, that's up to the department to figure out how they want to do that. But then they get a zoomed in picture of the license plate, a picture of the car, whether it's, a stolen plate, a missing person, it's a blue Toyota Corolla, and then what camera it hit off of. So then what they have to do is they would take this here and it would copy the license plate number, and then they would run that through their own system to make sure that is, the person that they're looking for. State law actually mandates that just an LPR hit doesn't trigger enough to pull anybody over. They're actually mandated to do an additional step to verify that's the vehicle to pull over. Does that answer?
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes.
Yeah, so just to, I guess, piggyback off of what he just said, the police department still has to establish probable cause to pull the vehicle over. So just having we wouldn't use it just because somebody might be a troublemaker and what they might do. Does that make sense? Like if we have a car that we believe is involved in criminal activity, those are the types of vehicles that we would be putting into that hot list, not just people we don't like, because we would run into all sorts of problems if people were doing that. So, like he was saying, just the plate popping alone, absent some other probable cause to pull it over, we wouldn't be able to.
Saying that, I get it. That's not what you do as a practice. That will be a concern that people have, just a lot of, additional intel on people that they feel like maybe they don't want to have out there. But the solution is don't do bad things, and you won't have a problem and all that. But it'll be something that people are concerned about, I'm sure.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, how protected is the data in this system? Because I'm seeing a lot of information here, and that could be used by someone with want to do nefarious activities. As a resident, how protected is my information in your system? Because you could track, if you got in, you could track what somebody was doing when they were leaving, when they weren't home, if you wanted to break in. So that that's one of my concerns when I look at any of this stuff is, how protected am I as a citizen? Have you had any anybody get in, any attacks or anything?
No. So all the data is actually owned by you or the department. So we don't actually own any of the data. The data is only stored for 30 days and falls off every 30 days. So we're not keeping months or years of records of people. It falls off every 30 days, and 99.999% of images probably will never be looked at. And the only people with access to this data is law enforcement. They couldn't even call me up as an employee here and say, hey, Rick, I'm not in front of my computer. A black truck, we're looking for a black truck, it passed this camera. Can you tell me who that is? I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't have access. Yes.
So Amber, if the information falls off there, or Jason, if it falls off their server in 30 days, do you have a way to retain it? Because some things don't come to conclusion in 30 days, I would think. Is it just gone?
You are able to download and save images into files. So if a crime happens, you can download and save individual images as you need them. But we're just not storing gobs, all the data constantly.
Right. We just wouldn't know. They wouldn't know what they would need. Right.
Well,
so maybe later, right?
Well, so that's similar to how we manage our videos. We wouldn't have, you get you get into a lot of expense when you try to start storing that much data. So yeah, there's always going to be some risk that something falls off that you didn't know you needed until it was too late. But I would think, if you're working a criminal investigation and you can identify a suspect vehicle, like he said, you can store that specific data, but we don't need, the 500 cars that went through the intersection after that vehicle, if that makes sense.
I got it. Yep.
Yeah, so like if I'm understanding this correctly, like if a car was stolen, right, and you go through and you say, well, it was taken, sometime between midnight and 4 a.m., and you find it driving past a camera at 2:30, you're going to download and save that information while you guys work the case. And and then if it's needed, you can use it or delete it at that point. There would obviously going to have to be a protocol to that, but
Correct.
Yeah, so it's one of the things we actually hear all the time, that departments tend to want to keep it longer and keep it for 90 days or keep it for a year. We're pretty set at only doing 30 days. It just tends to really, obviously, you get, a little more buy-in from the community, that we're not, storing all their data for a year, and every time they go to the store, now you have all these data points. People tend to feel very comfortable at things rolling off every 30 days. Any other questions on this piece at all? Okay. And I just want to kind of touch on a few things as well. So Menor on the Lake is a client of ours, and this is something that they get, that just departments get often. It's it's a black SUV. What they thought was happening was this was a distraction burglary that was called in, that, somebody knocked on the door, they looked suspicious, they went around back, they got confronted, they went in their car and drove off. So they thought this was a distraction burglary. So this is all the police had to go off of, was just this picture of a dark black SUV. And then they're able to take that and do the searches. And they're able to get this clear photo then from our cameras. So then they take that grainy photo, get this very clear photo. You get the license plate clear as day. And they found out this was actually registered to a Bedford car dealer. And it was one of those Inspire Energy people that go door to door trying to sell you energy. And they just didn't get the proper permitting. So this didn't necessarily solve a crime, but they were able to go back to their constituent and say, hey, this wasn't a distraction burglary. What this was, the Inspire Energy people, they didn't get the proper permitting. We spoke to them, and now going forward, they know that they have to get the proper permitting, at the city hall. So these are just the types of crimes that I think people don't think about very often, that most of the time the departments have very little tools to help come up with any sort of conclusion to these types of things. Whereas, once they have our cameras, you take a picture of that Ring doorbell that's, very grainy, and you get a photo clear as day that then the department's able to track and get more information on. And I'll touch on our pricing model as well. So, our pricing model is really an all-in cost. So it's $2,500 per camera per year. And that's the hardware, it's the software, it's the storage, it's the LTE, it's the maintenance, it's really everything. There is a one-time installation fee of $250. But other than that, it's really just $2,500 per camera per year. And the power really comes in being able to share all this information with other departments. So most departments opt into sharing, at least through the state of Ohio. 95% of them actually share throughout the whole country. So this way, Hunting Valley will have, police department will have access to your cameras, you'll have access to theirs. So it's really more working together as a much larger community to be able to help solve and eliminate more crime. Because the same people that are coming to Moreland Hills and Gates Mills are hitting your city as well. So just being able to kind of be on the same system and get everyone kind of working and talking in the same language does a lot of good things.
So, just a quick question on the pricing. You mentioned 2,500 per camera. Do you know how many we're gonna need? We would need?
That would be something I would really defer to the department on. I don't want to.
Okay, so, and then the 250, is that per camera?
It is per camera one time.
And then do you have any idea, like an estimate of what the electrical work that's required to put in place, what that looks like?
So if you're doing electric, we actually hang the camera and the box.
Right.
The electrician really just ties the wires together. I'm not an electrician, but from what I've been told, it's like day one stuff for an electrician, very simple. We just did hung 13 up in Menor this week or last week and into this week. And their electrician almost came right behind and started to tie them up. So there's not anything that's real in depth.
So if it's solar, if we're using solar power to drive these things, do we need electrical like backup? Does it have to be electrical? Can it be 100% solar?
No, it can be totally solar.
Okay.
Just the issues. I will be upfront. I'm familiar with your area. There's a lot of trees and a lot of the entryways down. So I took a look at some of them. It could be challenging. I mean, we'll try to find some locations and spots. But obviously, it's solar, so we need direct sunlight, a couple hours a day at least.
Got it.
And it does have to do with the number of cars that you get. Willoughby had a bunch of cameras up on, Route 91, 2-lane roads, high traffic areas. Whereas, in Sugar Falls, I don't think they're as highly trafficked as maybe some other areas. So you might be able to go additional days. It really has to do with the number of cars it's capturing, not really just a time limit, if that makes sense.
So Darren, real quick to answer your question about the number of cameras, in a perfect world, I would like to have a camera at every entry point into the village. So Bell Street, East Washington, North Street, Miles, Solon, South Main, South Franklin. So like around 8 maybe.
And
What do you think Jason, what do you think the bare minimum to make them effective would be?
Bare minimum, I would probably say at least 2. So maybe 2 to 4. I think that Solon and Miles area is an important area because those are quick ways.
Did I lose everybody or did?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think we froze there for a second.
Sorry about that. I would say 2 to 4. The Solon Miles area is a concerning area for me because it's such a quick way out of town. All the other, and then Chagrin Boulevard, the West Orange Street, that's another sort of quick way out of town. Every other location, if you don't know your way around here, it's going to be difficult for you to get out of Chagrin Falls since we're basically like landlocked in the valley area. So I would say those 2 locations would be where I would focus the 2 to 4 cameras. And I believe through the investigations that we're in now and some of the information we have from our crimes that a lot of people are coming into town to do those crimes from those locations and or leaving out of that way.
Okay. I do have a question on the basically on contracting. Is there a minimum, so we obviously pay for a year at a time, but are we locked in? Do we have to do, anything more than a year? Is there a cancellation fee or anything like that if we do that?
So it's typically a 2-year contract. You don't have to pay 2 years up front. And you are able to opt out of the contract at any point. The only cost to get out of it is whatever the cost it is for us to pick up the cameras, to remove the cameras. We have a tech now. He actually resides in Bay Village and he's just covering the Cleveland area. So I wouldn't anticipate that being, very expensive. But we're a company, we don't want to force anyone to work with us. If we're not doing our job and they're not helping you eliminate crime and solve crime, we understand there's no purpose to be working with us. We're very confident that that won't be the case. And, that's why we haven't lost a single police client yet. We have 600 and haven't taken even one camera out of the ground yet. So they just work so well once they're up and live. And I know I didn't touch on this as much. A lot of what I showed you is kind of on the back end after a crime occurs. And Chief and Lieutenant, tell me if I'm wrong, but I know I spoke with your detective earlier today, and you had about 10 stolen cars last year. And my bet would be all 10 of those people probably came in a stolen car already to steal that car. It seems like what's going on in Cleveland now, kids tend to be just stealing cars and using them to commit other crimes in other neighborhoods for a 3, 4, 5 day period. And then I'm sure you probably find them in East Cleveland all the time whenever these cars are stolen. So now whenever those people come back in a stolen vehicle to try to steal other cars, they'll alert the police, within 7 to 15 seconds of entering. So that way they can chase them out before they have a chance to commit those crimes. Both of you, please tell me if I'm wrong. Most of these people are not pulling over. They know they're in a stolen vehicle. They're not just going to pull over and give up. They're going to take off and run out of your city. And hopefully they do that a couple times. They don't come back. At this point, a lot of these crimes are happening. They're just finding areas that work for them. Again, tell me if I'm wrong. It doesn't seem like a lot of the car break-ins, they're smashing windows. They're just looking for unlocked cars. So if Chagrin Falls, it's a really nice area. People feel very safe in their homes. They leave their cars unlocked, and people know that, and they're coming back there to keep getting stuff. So these cameras will at least alert the police officers, hey, this is a stolen vehicle entering. I don't think anyone in a stolen vehicle enters Chagrin Falls to do any sort of anything good. So I tend to gloss over that piece. Oh, go ahead.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jason or Amber, we're up from like 2 auto thefts a year to 10 last year. Is that about right? From about 2 to 10. So, pretty substantial increase.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it's not just us. I mean, it's definitely been a pervasive issue in Northeast Ohio in the last year. So,
and we've had a pretty substantial increase in nonviolent crime just across the board. Burglaries, all the garages that got broken into over the summer and everything.
And again, that's happening around the Northeast Ohio area too.
Yeah, it's definitely, not just Chagrin Falls. I live in Mentor. We've been getting hit as well. Every city I go into, it's the same thing. And it's these groups of kids that are 14, 15, 16 years old. So Willoughby's a client of ours, and they just chased a whole group of four teenagers out of their city. They ended up wrecking the car, and then all the kids fled on foot. But the goal is to just get them out of your city so that they don't come back. They're going to go places that that they've had success in the past. And I'll just be upfront. If everyone in Chagrin Falls locked their cars and locked their doors and locked their garages at night, you would not have any sort of this problem. I don't know how many of these cars that were stolen had the keys locked in them. My guess would be 10 out of the 10. Could be wrong, but they're just going to places that they've had success. And unfortunately, those are places that people feel the most comfortable at this point, in very nice neighborhoods where historically they didn't have these issues. So they haven't been locking their car at night, and they might keep their garage door open. And unfortunately, it just seems like it's been getting really, really bad here in the Cleveland area across all the suburbs.
So Nancy, you've been really quiet. Do you have any comments?
No, I think all my questions have been answered.
So I'm gonna ask Darren and Nancy, where do you guys think we should go from here? What do you guys think we should do next?
Yeah, I know the objective is to get in front of council, and I don't know if we're ready for that. I don't know.
I think we kind of need to have Jason and Amber kind of work up a plan of where do you think we need to put them? You know, let's draw it out on a map and let's figure out exactly, you know, how much the first year is going to cost us, because we know it'll be cheaper the second year because we'll take that $250 off, and kind of I think the finance portion of this is going to drive it, and I think that'll be kind of the next.
My timing is good. You know, I'm on the finance committee and budgets are being formulated, so it's a good time to talk about it. We're going to add something incremental. Now would be the time.
I will say, we're also willing to put them in for the first 60 days for free, so that if these things don't work, they're not performing what we're expecting, we'll just yank them out after 60 days and not send an invoice at all, and you're not out anything.
There's a 60-day, no money out of pocket. You put them up, you give us the information, we do with it whatever those guys do with it, and then we let you know. Is that it?
We
Right?
do go through the contracting process and everything. So we do sign the contract that
Sure, yeah.
you're doing, but no invoice is sent out until after the cameras are up and running for 60 days. So
Right.
even if a contract, you signed a contract and sent it to me tonight, it's
Yeah.
about a 30 to 45 day install, another week or so to get the cameras aligned, looking properly, then another 60 days for you to utilize it, then an invoice due in 30 days after that.
But we're still obliged to the 2-year contract.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I knew what I was talking about.
So, I mean, and one of the other things I think we really need to look at is the return on our investment. I mean, I know financially we probably aren't going to make, you know, the $2,500 in tickets and citations, but I mean, what is the return on our investment? Are we going to, you know, how much of a benefit is this really going to see? Do you have like a case study for us that you could provide? Maybe a city that's kind of our size. I mean, we're pretty small. We're 2.5 square miles, 2.1 square miles.
Yeah, we've had various studies that were done. I'll be honest, most of them haven't been done by cities of your size. But like the Dayton Police Department utilized us in one section of the city compared to another. So they saw a 10% increase in the area that they didn't put our cameras, and saw a 43% decrease where our cameras were. And the piece that I would point out in that, which I can get over to you, is really in the other crimes, which really are the yanking on car handles, taking things out of garages. That fell 65% in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Like not to do yourself for you, Rick, but the feel good, you know, like the service to the village to make you just feel safer is one thing. But then if there's an average of 2 cars stolen a year and now we have 10, and I know that's a product of all communities, that 8 car net difference, and everybody's got a $3,000 deductible when their car gets stolen or whatever the hell that is, times 8, you know, is what you're saving the community, really. I mean,
Yeah.
count on that. Now, if this is not going to prevent 100% of that theft, but
Yeah.
it cuts it by 50%. You can see where you could do the break-even analysis and probably come out ahead. I don't know.
And I think one of the really hard things for the police departments is, you know, you go to a house that had a crime occur and they catch it on camera, and it's the first time they've ever called the police for anything in 20 years. And on site, they have to tell them pretty much, we can't do anything for you. You know, that's just a hard pill for most people to swallow, that this happened, you know, even if you have it on a grainy security video or whatever it is, and there's just very little for people to go off of. And people tend to get frustrated with that.
So, Andrew, I think you just take it to council and you know, when you go through the process, there'll be a lot of questions, and I don't know, it can't hurt. I mean, it's not you and I deciding.
Right.
We just, and Nancy, sorry, we just take it to council and see what they think. I think the fact that Jason and Amber are advocating for it certainly help. So I don't know, I think that's the next step.
And
So
I
we need to
think,
have the proposal reviewed by Mayor Tomko as well.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, I apologize in advance for for giving Amber and Jason work, but I think we need, kind of a written proposal. It doesn't have to be real elaborate, but, how many you think would be, how many cameras you would need, to benefit, where you would put them, the costs, how it fits in your budget, those kinds of things, more, as opposed to this general conversation with the gentleman who's selling the system. A written something from the police department to present to council.
Yeah, I think that's the route to go. And let's go with, what you guys think. Let's start off with what you guys think we really need to do this effectively and really make the impact that these, it sounds like these have the ability to do. So let's start there, and we can always back it down if we need to.
Andrew, you can run through the concept pretty easily, I would think, in council. It's not all that complex. Okay. Works for
And
me.
what's the lead time for installation?
Good question.
So we're about 30 to 45 days out right now.
Okay.
We are a little backed up in Ohio. We got about 100 right now that need to be installed throughout Cleveland. It's taking a little more time with the single-digit weather we have right now. But yeah, we're typically about 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, but government moves slow, so it's going to be more than 30 days for us to
Yeah.
make a decision. But
Yeah.
So okay, we'll be the slow part of this.
Yeah, 30 to 45 days from once the contract's signed. Because we have to do a couple things, right? Like, well, it'll help a lot if you already have the plan put together from where you want them. Then we'll have to come out and do like a site survey, a solar survey. Is there the LTE there? Do we need to use T-Mobile? Do we need to use AT&T? What does the solar look like if we're using solar here? Then we'll have to order the equipment, get it scheduled for install. So it's nothing that goes up, like 2 days after you sign a contract. There's a little work that needs to go on beforehand.
And I guess there's a legal question on whether or not we're allowed to point these in a direction that's off village, out of the village's jurisdiction. If the camera's pointed off into Hunting Valley, is that a problem? So I guess that's a question we're going to have to ask. It's a Dale question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but from our experience, you have no right to privacy on a public road. And a lot of our agencies are actually putting theirs in other jurisdictions for whatever reason. They might have a better pole to hang it on, or it's at 2 lanes. I'll give you an example. In Independence, they're actually hanging a couple of theirs in Seven Hills. Because it's 2 lanes in Seven Hills, and it opens up to three or 4 lanes in Independence. So they're actually putting one of their cameras in Seven Hills, aimed towards them. So we're able to kind of share, with surrounding departments, surrounding jurisdictions, and whatnot as well.
If you could help us by letting probably Andrew know what communities around us have it when he makes his presentation. It'd be nice to know that everybody that's on our border, Orange, Pepper Pike, Solon, those communities have it. That would be helpful for sure. And then we should go with the assumption that this is going to be electrical. I don't know that anybody's going to believe that these things can be powered based on where we are. And I'm not a solar energy guy, but we better take worst case scenario and just assume that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. If we can do, if we can do electrical hardwired in, it should be hardwired in, because we know we see the sun 3 times a year. So
Yes.
cool. Well, is there anything else? Then I guess we will adjourn this meeting at 6:49. I want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, if you have any
Jason.
other questions, send me an email.
Lieutenant, I'll get you some of the information they're looking for with all the people locally. I'll put an email together for you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks, Jason.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
See you guys.